Hello, my name is Alex Robinson. I'm the Communications Coordinator for Green Goderich, and today I'm going to teach you about composting. Green Goderich is a grassroots environmental group based here in Goderich in Huron County, Ontario. We educate and advocate for sustainable environmental practices, so things like the zero waste movement, reducing the production of greenhouse gases, all based on scientific information. A lot of people think that by sending their food waste off to the landfill that it's getting broken down properly, but it actually isn't. Food and other organic waste require high levels of aeration and oxygen, and that's not provided at a general landfill. So when this food waste is broken down without access to the aeration and oxygen it requires, it produces large amounts of methane gas, which is one of the most volatile greenhouse gases. Just to give you guys some examples in terms of numbers, if the province of Ontario were to halve the amount of organic waste being sent to our landfills, it would create 1.1 megatons reduction in greenhouse gas emissions, or the equivalent emissions of 260,000 vehicles being driven regularly for an entire year. A great way to directly prevent global warming in an easy, individual, accessible way is with composting your food scraps. The main components of a good composting system are a sealable container of some sort, a way to aerate that container, a good mixture of green and brown material, which we'll talk about in a second, and proper moisture content. I'll show you a backyard version that I have here, but there are a few you can make in an apartment if you don't have access to outdoor space, which I'll post a couple links to in the video description. Or if that seems too daunting, you can also make a deal with maybe a local farmer or even a neighbor with a yard who will allow you to dump your compost there. But to give you guys an idea of what I compost, so here we have eggshells, we have apple cores, we have coffee grounds. I actually was trimming some of my house plants, so we have some weird looking trimmings here. Avocado peels, pieces of even plain non-glossy cardboard can be put in here as well. Paper towels, brown paper bags, even things from your yard like leaf litter, grass clippings, all of that work well in a compost bin and actually are a great help when you're first setting one up to get that composting going. Make sure when you're putting in things like banana peels or avocado skins that you are taking off those little food stickers that go on the outside of them, since those are not compostable. Both me and my partner are vegetarians, so we don't have any meat waste, but I did look it up for you meat eaters since I knew this would be a frequently asked question, I'm sure. So you can compost meat scraps, but apparently they tend to smell a bit more and attract more animals and compost much slower than your general vegetable and fruit scraps. So you can compost meat, but it's going to be a lot harder and it's probably easier if you keep it out. Typically, it's not recommended. The only thing I would definitely stay away from putting in there is bones, since they don't actually break down at all. So we have a plastic compost bin that the previous owners left with the house. We retrofitted the lid and a little door in the front because they were both missing, but we're all about reuse, so we wanted to use up what was possible in our yard without having to buy anything new. So it has holes along the base for air to get in. If you're building your own, you just add a couple holes along the bottom so air can get in and move around. A big component of aerating your compost is turning it regularly. Now I say regularly in those vague terms because it does depend on the size of your pile, the type of container you have, the time of year, and so on. I would suggest at least checking on it weekly once you are just starting it up, and then once every couple weeks after that. What I mean by turning is rotating and flipping the contents of the bin and allowing the entire container to receive air for proper breakdown. The next component is a proper mixture of green and brown material. Brown material is things like dry woody plant trimmings, wood chips, dried leaves and straw. Green material is moist vegetable and fruit scraps, green leaves, fresh grass. I have some food scraps in here now, but just adding food scraps once every couple weeks creates a very slow start for your compost. When I start a new bin, I like to add some brown and green yard waste to help get it going. So we'll add dried leaves as well as fresh grass. The final component is proper moisture content. Compost that is too wet or too dry will not biodegrade efficiently. Once your compost bin is filled up enough that you're flipping and turning it regularly, you should be checking its moisture content. You can do this by grabbing a handful and squeezing it. It should be as moist as a wrung-out sponge. It should clump together, not crumble, but should not be dripping. If it's too wet, add more brown material and other dry material. If it's too dry, add a bit more water or more moist green material. And that's how you start your own compost system. Once it's all set up and has the right consistency of each of these components, it's a pretty easy keeper. It should turn to dark, moist soil when it's done breaking down, and this can be used as a great fertilizer for any sort of garden. Please let me know if you have any questions, and I look forward to sharing more of my sustainable tips and tricks with all of you in future videos. Thank you.